Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a young woman named Anita. At the age of 37, she found herself without a husband, children, employment, business, or tertiary education. Anita completely felt like she had nothing figured out about her life. She had no clear direction or possessions to call her own. She felt lost in her own little world. While all her childhood friends were happily married and had started a family, some of them had found success in their career, and they were actually doing very well for themselves. However, Anita's life seemed to be going in the opposite direction. This wasn't the life she wanted or envisioned for herself, but circumstances beyond her control held her back. Anita lived with her elderly mother and her 12-year-old sister, Mercy. The loss of their father at a very tender age left her mother to shoulder the responsibility of raising them alone. Unfortunately, fate dealt them another blow when her mother fell ill and could no longer care for them. Her mother had been sick for many years and was unable to walk and provide for Anita and her sister. At the age of 15, Anita found herself shouldering the heavy responsibility of caring for herself, her sick mother, and her younger sibling, Mercy. Her mother's prolonged illness prevented Anita from leaving the village to pursue better opportunities in the city or further her education. She was basically stuck in the village where she had to do manual jobs for people to enable her to earn some money to take care of her sibling and her sick mother. Life was extremely hard for Anita, as she had to work day and night tirelessly to take care of the family. Unfortunately, her numerous responsibilities made it difficult for her to make plans for her own future, leaving her with a sense of uncertainty about what the future holds. When Anita walked across the road, she would see her childhood friends. Some of them were in exotic cars with their husbands. However, when she tried to greet them or call out to them, they ignored her. Most times, they would give her a mean and condescending look. Anita was looked down upon by all of her childhood friends because she was nowhere near their level of achievement. On many occasions, Anita tried to greet or start up a conversation with her childhood friends whenever she bumped into them, but they just brushed her off, pretending as if she did not exist. This kind of treatment always left Anita feeling deeply wounded and discouraged. She became ashamed and would always hide herself whenever she saw any of those childhood friends coming down the street, not wanting to be seen in her present state. One day, while Anita was on her way to the market to buy food for dinner, she saw her childhood friend Ruth approaching from a distance. However, before she could even think of finding a hiding spot, Ruth had already noticed her. Ruth had recently come back from the city and looking incredibly beautiful and stylish. With surprise in her voice, she exclaimed, "Anita, is that really you? Oh my, it's been ages. Where are you going looking like this? You look so tattered and unkempt. I may appear somewhat untidy as I have just returned from work. Currently, I am on my way to the market to purchase some groceries." "You look lovely," Anita responded. "Thank you. What kind of job do you do now? And besides, are you married?" "No, I'm not married yet. I work at people's farms and help them clear their land. That's what I do." "Gosh, how could you call that a job?" "That's no job, girl. You need to upgrade yourself. Stop doing such jobs. They're too nasty for you. Honestly, you need to try harder." "Well, I just want to tell you that I'm tying the knot next week, and that's actually why I have returned to the village to prepare for my big traditional marriage ceremony. It's going to be the talk of the village." "Oh wow, that sounds amazing. Please, can I be part of your bridal train? I would love to be part of it." Hate to break it to you, but you're too old for that. Besides, my bridal train is for big and rich girls. I'm sorry, you're not on that level." Anita was totally shocked to hear such condescending words from Ruth. She didn't know what to do or say, just stood there for a bit trying to process it all. Next thing you know, she's crying her eyes out. Couldn't hold back her tears any longer. Anita went home feeling super down, as if the weight of the world was on her shoulders. She sat on her bed thinking about her life. All of a sudden, a crazy idea popped into her head. She went into the kitchen and picked up a poisonous substance from a small bowl. Then she went back to her room and sat on the bed. She said to herself, "I am tired of being mocked. It is best I end it now. Yes, I would rather die than live a wretched life like this. This will be the only way to end my pain." As she was about to drink the substance, another thought came to her mind. If you drink this poison and die, who will take care of your mother and sister? They would suffer more. Is it worth it? As these thoughts ran through her mind, she suddenly slept off, and she had this great dream. In her dream, she found herself in this super fancy room decked out with gold, silver, and all sorts of shiny jewels. She had many servants surrounding her, and they were serving her as she dined in a beautiful dining room. She was living like a queen in her dream. When she woke up and realized that it was only a dream, she became sad and moody again. Her mother noticed how sad and moody Anita had become. She was concerned. So she called Anita and spoke to her about it. "Look, I know that time is not on your side. Your youth is fading, and you are not getting any younger. I understand your worries. Now, it is time you need to go and find your fulfillment and self-discovery so that you can be happy. Your sister and I will take care of ourselves." Anita wasn't having it at first, but after some back and forth with her mom, she agreed to give it a shot and promised to make her proud. Anita started saving up every penny for a big move from the village to the city lights. 3 months of solid hustle paid off. She had saved enough amount of money to get herself an apartment in the city. She was excited that finally she would be leaving the village, but she also felt sad because she didn't want to leave her mother and sister. One fateful morning, just as Anita was preparing to depart to the city, a tragic event occurred. As Anita entered her mother's room to bid her final farewell, she discovered her mother lifeless on the bed. She desperately tried to wake her mother, but to no avail. It was at that moment Anita understood that her mother had passed away. Her heart shattered as she wept uncontrollably. Her life, once filled with dreams and aspirations, was now fragmented into pieces of despair. During her mother's funeral, Anita found herself overwhelmed with grief and struggled to maintain composure. The responsibility of caring for her 12-year-old sister Mercy now rested solely on her shoulders. One morning, she pondered her next course of action, but she had no alternative but to proceed with her journey to the city. This time, she had to bring her sister along. However, after careful consideration, she deemed it risky and unwise to expose her sister to an unfamiliar environment. Consequently, she made the decision to send her sister to the neighboring village to reside with her aunt, who happened to be her mother's sister. The following morning, Anita embarked on her journey to the city. She boarded a bus to the city. As she sat at the back of the bus, she was weeping bitterly. Her heart weighed heavy with grief, and thoughts of her mother consumed her mind. After 21 hours of the journey, she finally arrived in the city. With the little money she had saved up, she rented a very small room where she could keep her belongings and lay her head. After a few days, she had settled in, and she started looking for a job. She went from one location to another in search of a job. She finally found a job at a cafeteria as a local waitress. She worked so hard and she was able to make some money, which she sent back home for her little sister and was able to save some for her future education. After over a year of working hard and saving up, she finally decided to go back to school. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until her aunt, who was taking care of her sister Mercy, began making unreasonable demands for more money. She would make up stories about Mercy being sick just to extort more money from Anita. Meanwhile, Mercy was being mistreated and neglected by her auntie and wasn't even being properly taken care of. Eventually, Mercy had to escape from their aunt's house and sought refuge with an elderly woman named Edith, who lived in the same village. Although the old woman lived in a shabby-looking house, She took good care of Mercy. Anita, unaware of the situation, continued to send money to her auntie, believing that her sister was being well taken care of. Little did she know that Mercy was no longer living with their auntie. Since Anita trusted her auntie, she kept on sending more and more money as her auntie kept on demanding and extorting more money from her. Anita hit her limit. She ran out of cash and had no more money to send. All her savings were gone, leaving her broke and unable to afford school or cover the rent. One day, as Anita was walking down the street, she coincidentally bumped into her cousin, Irene. It was quite a pleasant surprise for Anita, as she had no idea they both lived in the same city. Anita shared her struggles with Irene, explaining how her rent was almost due and she feared being evicted by her landlord. Irene felt pity for her and decided to accommodate Anita. She moved into Irene's apartment and got acquainted with her sisters. They received her with open arms and she happily started living with them. But things were still going very slow for Anita until God decided to bless her. Many handsome and rich men began to ask for her hand in marriage. Some of these suitors were so wealthy that Irene couldn't help but feel envious of Anita. Although Anita was not giving them a chance because she felt she was not in the same league with them, that was not enough reason to stop Irene, who had grown so jealous and harbored so much hatred for Anita. Irene sent Anita out of her apartment. With no other options, she sought refuge in an unfinished building nearby. Since the building was still under construction, Anita decided to stay there until she gathered enough money to rent a new apartment. A few days later, as she was preparing to go out in search of a job, she encountered a woman named Martha. Despite her initial fear, Anita gathered her courage and politely inquired, "Good morning, madam. May I ask who you are and what brings you here?" "This is my building," Martha responded. "I came here to see the work in progress so far, so I should be the one asking you what you are doing in my building." "I deeply apologize, madam. It was never my intention to intrude upon your property. I find myself in a difficult situation as a homeless girl with nowhere else to turn. My own cousins have threw me out of their house. I thought perhaps I could stay here temporarily until I gather enough funds for a place of my own." Upon hearing Anita's heartbreaking story, Martha couldn't help but feel sympathy for her. She asked if Anita had a job, to which Anita sadly replied that she was currently unemployed. In a kind gesture, Martha offered Anita a position as a cleaner and housekeeper in her own home. Anita was so excited she accepted the offer immediately, carried her bags, and followed the woman back to her house. From that moment on, Anita diligently worked as a housekeeper, displaying unwavering dedication. She took care of the laundry, prepared meals, and meticulously cleaned the entire mansion. Martha was incredibly pleased with Anita's efforts and treated her with utmost kindness and respect. Martha lived alone because all her children were grown-ups and lived abroad. She had 3 rich, handsome boys who rarely visited home. She was a very rich woman, but her children were even richer. One fine Monday morning, her son Joseph returned home to pay his mother a visit. Martha was overjoyed to see her son and warmly welcomed him. The following day, Anita was busy sweeping and minding her own business. Joseph saw her and couldn't help but be captivated by her. He fell in love with Anita, and he couldn't take his eyes off her. Anita admired him too. It was like love at first sight. He went to ask his mother about Anita. His mother told him who Anita was and how she met her. She told her son that Anita was a very good woman. Joseph told his mother he wanted to marry her. His mother approved of it and gave her son her blessings. Anita and Joseph tied the knot after a few weeks. 2 months later, Anita made a decision to return to the village and bring her little sister to live with her in the city. As Anita arrived in the village, she arrived in style, being driven in an expensive car, leaving all the people who had doubted her with faces hidden in shame. The villagers were astonished and couldn't believe their own eyes when they witnessed the remarkable transformation Anita had undergone. The news of her return and incredible change spread rapidly throughout the village, causing a great commotion. Many of her childhood friends, who had mistreated and ignored her, were now filled with embarrassment and lacked the courage to approach her, offer a simple greeting, or even congratulate her. They never anticipated this turn of events, as they had believed Anita would remain useless forever in their hearts. When she arrived at her aunt's house, she expressed her desire to bring her sister Mercy along with her. However, her aunt deceitfully claimed that Mercy had disappeared a few days earlier, and she had no idea of her whereabouts. Anita was very unhappy and devastated because she didn't know where to find her sister. Meanwhile, Mercy was sent by the old woman on an errand to sell some farm produce at the market, as that was their main source of income. On her way, she overheard rumors about her sister's unexpected return. At first, Mercy could not believe her ears, so she decided to find out for herself. She ran to her wicked aunt's place. When she got there, she saw her dear, lovely sister, looking so beautiful and different from before. She was very excited and couldn't hold back her joy. Anita was equally thrilled to see her sister again. Mercy told her how she was being mistreated by her auntie. Anita was so disappointed as she listened to her sister's story. She took her sister back to the woman's house and thanked her greatly for taking care of her sister. Anita went with her sister to the city, and they lived happily together. Anita went back to further her education, and after 3 years, she successfully graduated. She then became the managing director at her husband's company. The girl who was once called useless was now a role model for many girls in the village.